Hello, my friend, and welcome to the 564th episode of the Sales Podcast. I'm Wes Schaefer, the Sales Whisperer, your host. Today we have AJ Bruno, interesting dude. He's a pilot. He is the founder of a couple of companies. He has sold one of them for some nice money, and he shares his wisdom here. You know, we get into frameworks. All right, I'm gonna steal some of the thunder. Frameworks, processes. Do you have frameworks? Do you have processes? Do you stick to them? Do you have them for your people? Do you hold them accountable? Hold everyone accountable. Raise your standard. Raise your level of expectations for everyone around you. Okay, the recession is here. Yeah, they haven't announced it yet because they always wait for the collapse, right? You got to have 2 quarters, so it's a lagging indicator once they announce it. But it's here. How long will it last? I don't know. Will this be worse than some of the previous ones? Yeah, I think so. Somebody posted, younger guy, he's actually in my Monday calls in the Sell More of Everything group. And he's younger than me. So he says, hey, how'd you handle the last recession? You know, and I said, which one? Right? I mean, I've lived through a bunch now, but certainly as an adult, went through the 2000, 2001, went through the 2008. And, I told him I just kept having babies. My daughter, my third child, she was born early in 2000. Had another daughter 2002, another daughter 2004, another daughter 2007, another daughter, another all run together, 2014. So, I don't know, kept having kids. And, got better jobs, kept selling, launched my own business, wrote books, and, have fallen forward. So obviously it depends on your debt, on your debt-to-income ratio. We've always kept our powder dry. I've lost money on investments, but I've never put in too much that I couldn't handle losing it. I was fortunate in reading the tea leaves when we moved here. Moved here in late 2004, and we rented for 6 years. Because I was looking around, I was like, this is a bubble. And it was a huge bubble. So we bought our home at the bottom. We refinanced, a couple times. Actually, ended up getting it at the bottom, very low 2% rate. Pulled some money out, invested that. That's done very well for us. What I invested in was through some friends, guys that have become friends because of this. I met them through my efforts in the Sales Whisperer and as the Sales Podcast. They were guests. I was a guest on their podcast. I spoke at one of their masterminds. Then I attended their conferences. Now we're investing with them, and it's been fantastic, all because we put ourselves out there. So, regardless of what the economy is doing, there's an old adage, this guy used to say, I refuse to participate in the recession. Okay? Refuse to participate in it. So get out there and do what you have to do. If you have to sell a house in this economy, I recommend being realistic. Take the first offer. First offer is usually the best. Take the money and run. I just saw today, as I'm recording this intro, June 16th, a friend of mine, very successful realtor here in Southern California, he said he just got an offer $150,000 below asking price. And the Fed just raised rates yesterday, 75 basis points. Another agent that I know, she wrote last week that her buyers had made an offer, and they had waived all contingencies, okay, but still they had an appraisal. The appraisal came back $25,000 under their asking price. The seller did not have to accept that, but the seller did accept that here in Southern California. That was wise of the sellers. So that's a good agent making that happen because the canary is in the coal mine. So real estate's going to change. And, I bring this up not to be the bearer of bad news. It's just news. Okay, if I tell you it's going to rain, is that bad news? Oh, my wedding, whatever. Okay, well, it just is. It is what it is. You can't stop it. All you can do is prepare for it. Do you want to walk in blind, or do you want to know what's happening? So I don't say this as bad news. If you position yourself properly, you can succeed in these times. This could create the opportunity of a lifetime for you. So, as we look at this, I saw this lady I know is a mortgage broker. She makes this post. Oh, when I bought my first house, my rates were 9.8%, 9.86%, and that investment is paid off, and I rent it out now. It provides income. Okay, so you go back and look. There's a thing called the Case-Shiller Index. When rates were that high, they were that high in several periods. When we bought our first house in December of '99, January 2000, it was over 8%. We made about $60,000, if I remember correctly, in about 18 months. Bought a bigger house, had another baby. But when people say that, when you look at the rates, what had happened, again, this Case-Shiller Index looks at the housing value and costs to inflation, things like that. But housing prices had gone down. A friend of mine, she was actually the neighbor of my wife when we met. She had mentioned she bought her first house in '88 and had a 10% mortgage. But housing prices had been very stable. Even they were depressed. New England dropped 32% over most of the 90s. Okay, so when you buy a house that's down 30% over 8 or 9 or 10 years, you can afford a 10% mortgage on that house. Okay, so this mortgage person, I'm really torn on this. It's like, is she manipulative? Is she ignorant? Is she just not informed? Is she greedy? Because as rates are now popping up, what she's trying to say, basically there's never a bad time to buy. Well, when she bought her house and paid 9.86%, the housing values were suppressed. Now, when rates are spiking, you don't buy a house that appreciated 100% in the last 4 years. It's just, and people are trying to say, this time is different, and more people have more equity, and there's a housing shortage, and like crap, and I think more crap. The federal government, the Federal Reserve, these people are lying, manipulative a-holes. They've manipulated everything. They squeezed this cheap money, 0% interest rates, quantitative easing, monetizing debt. It's not good. And the Federal Reserve has no bullets left in their gun. They've got to raise rates so they can get back to trying to manipulate the market. So they have to destroy the economy to save the economy. Okay, but by having rates so low, the government had all this cheap money. They printed trillions in the man-made COVID. So people chased money, big institutions. You have Harvard with 60 or 80 and $90 billion endowment. When you have CalPERS, right, pension fund for the state, when you have unions with pensions, they've got to earn a return. And buying a 0.1% bond won't cut it. So they chased returns in the stock market. They chased returns in real estate. This was an artificial government-made bubble, just like the Great Depression was a government man-made issue. The Roaring Twenties were created by the government. The Federal Reserve helped perpetuate it, accentuate it. They call it the Great Depression. It needed a name to modify it, to separate it from the others. We had other depressions. The Federal Reserve and the Banking Act in 1913 was created to smooth out business cycles, supposedly. But within 16 years, we had the greatest depression. Within 16 years of the government getting involved, and these manipulative a-holes, and these bankers, and these robber barons, within 16 years, we had the Great Depression. And then the idiotic policies of those in government, FDR, exacerbated and perpetuated it, so much so it took a world war to get out of it. So don't trust these people, okay? But my point is, things are going to get interesting. They're going to get hairy. But like they say, buy when there's blood in the street, even if it's your blood. There are going to be opportunities. So stay optimistic, okay? Negotiate. If you owe money, negotiate, haggle, and keep your head on a swivel. Look for opportunities, ways to jump in. You'll see AJ Bruno in this. He's an optimistic dude. He's making stuff happen. He's interviewing people on his podcast while he's flying. I mean, refuse to participate in the recession, okay? The best way to do that is to know how to sell. So invest in yourself. Get the Make Every Sale program. Join us in the Sell More of Everything, or live calls every week. Surround yourself with positive people. Surround yourself with people that have been there, done that, and can help you navigate through these coming times. Don't go through this alone, okay? No reason to. Invest in yourself. Come join us. And then listen to this episode with AJ. AJ Bruno, the sales guy, entrepreneur / pilot podcaster all the way from Philly. Welcome to the Sales Podcast, man. How the heck are you?
Great. You didn't say founder. And you're like, last episode with Nate, you're like, founder. What does founder mean anyway?
I know, but then he said, hey, I'm a CEO working towards it, or founder working to CEO. I don't know. It's one of those things. All right, founder. All right,
don't ask me what any of the things you just said except pilot. I think I could tell you what a pilot means.
Cut, hack. All right, recut. I would splice that, but no, I don't do things over. Okay, so we just leave it at that. Hello, founder.
Hello, friend.
Did I call you like Mr. Founder? Is it Bruno Founder or Founder Bruno or AJ the Founder? I like AJ the Founder.
You can never take the founder title away for founders. So like you know, CEOs get fired all the time, and you get moved out, but can't take that founder, co-founder out of it. So
good point.
I'll take it. That's fine. It works for me.
All right, that's a good point, man. So what the heck is going on? Founder of Quota Path. What the heck is that? I want to get into your story, but I want, like, what the heck is Quota Path?
In the simplistic terms, we help
sales. Keep it simple, all right? I'm from the South.
Keep it simple.
Speak slowly, use small syllable words.
We're in the space called commissions, where salespeople earn $1 for some things that they might sell. Now we're doing sales compensation and commission tracking for teams, but our big focus has really been around the teams, the sales teams themselves. So there's a handful of players that have popped up in this space over the years, but a lot of them handle it in more of a professional services manner and do a lot of like the Salesforce craziness integration. You spend a lot of money on the implementation. We made it pretty easy and taken a different approach, which is a bottom-up focus on the sales leaders and the sales revenue operations teams. Very trendy term these days, revenue operations. And so we're helping a lot of those folks really just track that in an easy end-to-end manner, run payroll, bada bing, bada boom, you're done. That's it.
Why do companies make it so damn hard? Right? I mean, I spent a decade in high tech, and oh my gosh. Early on, I sold mobile homes. It was easy. We had double wides, we had triple wides, we had single wides. We had gross margin targets for each. If you hit the gross margin, you maxed your commission. If you didn't, you got hit on it. And you had to sell 4 repos a year. So, and then that maximized your quota. I mean, like, it was simple. Then you get into high tech and it's like, is Mercury in retrograde?
Oh, man.
We must divide by the integer.
So first off, Wes, funny story about that. Mercury is in retrograde right now, just FYI.
Oh, I know. I read all these people. I don't believe any of that, but I see all the memes. So like, I'll sprinkle it in.
We actually have a widget in our app that tells sales reps if the Mercury is in retrograde. Funny, and I'm not even kidding.
That's awesome.
But you're right. Like the owners of your double wide that you had job out of college should be the ones running comp plans. But you know what happens? You have fancy new sales leaders come in, or new funding, and the like investors like, hey, you all need to be looking at this thing called ARR. You're looking at this thing called MRR. and bookings, and bookings is not tied to your activity goals, and you need to have a dependency gate, and then you need to have that milestone over here all the way over here, and there you go, you get a look like that. That's what it is. You're nailing it though. Like you've got this is, get me out of this. Can I get a drink? That's what
I'm reaching. Oh, I just got to get up. All right. I got Whistle Pig close. All right,
but that's what the sales teams like.
Going in my coffee, man.
Over and there you go. You got your great job. You are doing a great job.
9 years. I've never had to pour a Whistle Pig into my coffee. And look what you just did to me, man.
I gave you a PhD lesson in your sales comp plan, and you didn't like it. You're not. But that's what we see happen is that you start out with really simple plans, 10%. Okay, I get that. And then you add product lines, and then you add gross margins, and then you add different goals and different investors. And what we find is sales leaders and ops are afraid to take away anything from the sales teams. So you don't want to remove any like bonus or spiff, right? That you don't want to take that away from the sales rep. So you're just going to Frankenstein and add to it. And like that just doesn't make any sense. So we do actually, contrary to what you would think, you'd think we were like, well, Quota Path, you all want really fancy schmancy snowflake of plans to help like demystify this. You're like, you know what? No, let's help you actually build a simplistic plan. I know like that there's a couple companies that have gone back to like very, very straightforward, and smaller organizations were like, well, this is now 10%. You helped us fix this problem, but you kind of kicked yourselves out of a job because our reps now understand their comp plans so easily. We can't run it out of a spreadsheet. It happens.
Yeah, but there is karma, right? They will talk well about you on the few times that happens. So it's like, I'll take that. I get it though. It's like if you're selling a tangible product, you have different margins than if you sell a warranty or a service package. So, I get it. You get these blended things, but man, some of them they're so complex, and it's painful. So, but this isn't your first rodeo, right? You've launched a few companies.
Few. I would say I've launched two successful companies. You know what? Since you brought it up, Wes, since you brought it up, let me talk about my first rodeo, my first adventure.
Hey, tell us the bad ones, dude. Everybody,
this isn't bad. This is going to make me lots of money someday. I got this great idea.
All right, bring it on.
So in college, I went to Penn State public school, got my public education, big school, 40,000 people, undergrad. At that time,
do they have a football team?
They do indeed have a football team.
Oh yeah, okay. I'll go look them up later. Okay.
Go figure out. Yeah, they do have a football team. Not on the level of the Michigan-Ohio State football team. We were always like the second tier on the Big Ten.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of them. I'll take the Nittany Lions.
Thank you.
Although I have a new Ohio State has given me a little bit of love because they gave us Joe Burrow. So
Joe's had a pretty good career down in LSU.
I like Ohio State that much.
That much. Yeah. Okay,
what has Penn State done for LSU lately?
No, your quarterbacks. There was a coach that we're going to go down a rabbit hole. We just do not need to go down.
It's my show, damn it. But go ahead, tell me your story. All right,
Let me tell you about this great idea that I have.
So put myself on mute. Go.
So in college, there was this 2003. This guy created this page called $1 Million Homepage. Okay, big entrepreneur, and every pixel on the screen, so that's the little dot on your screen, costs $1. You're selling advertising space. 1 million pixels on the screen. Guess how much he made in a week? $1 million. $1 million just by selling a pixel. And I was like, you know what? If entrepreneurship is that easy, I can figure this out. So this is 2004, before Twitter. And I said, you know what? What if there was a blank screen and there's a text box on that screen? And at any moment in time, someone could type in what they wanted to, and that would save on it. And to change the text box, you just pay $1. So literally $1. So I came up with a cute little name, controlthebuzz.com. And I started this website, and I had it. And you know how much I made from this website?
$7.12.
Oh, I give me more credit than that. $76.12. It wasn't good.
So, well, hold on though. I want to go back to this pixel thing. Was this like name a star and you pay like $30 and you get a star named after you?
I mean, it was an advertising ploy. It still exists, $1 Million homepage. Now I feel like I'm pitching this guy's thing. And you know what he actually went to? He was, I think he was New Zealand. He was either Aussie or from New Zealand. He started calm.com, CALM.com after he founded his $1 Million homepage. So he did some great things after that. That was my first venture. It failed when I went away to Italy for my study abroad. And I got it, but I got it up and running, and I had a payment processing system, and I was so ahead of my time in those days. And then Twitter came along and just blew it all up. But I think my idea still could still work. So I learned a little bit there. Where I really cut my teeth is a company called Trend Kite. That was
Trend Kite.
Trend Kite.
Sure.
PR relations, public relations software, attribution, gave you the ROI. You were mentioned in the press. We work with Nike, we work with Hershey's, Sephora, some great brands, and help them understand what their press was worth in the news. And that team, we were based in Austin, Texas, so not too far away from you. And we grew the company from 0 to $30 million in revenue in 3.5 years. So it's skyrocketed. We could sling. We might not have understood our comp plans, but we could sling some software. That's for sure. Lots of cold call selling. That's where I really got my start out of college.
When was this?
2007 to 2013. I worked for Meltwater and did cold call sales leadership. Started in Philly, moved to San Diego, did a little stint in the Bay, and then eventually was like, I can do this myself. I'm going to go start a company, and that's where Trend Kite was born. I ran the sales team, grew to about 150 people, and it was some fun times. But I always had a rep that would come up to me at the end of the quarter and be like, AJ, founder extraordinaire, founder, not CEO, founder, you paid me incorrectly. WTF, my friend, like, can you fix that? And I had to go figure that out and run to my CFO, who was like, talk to finance, talk to accounting, and it sucked. So
dude, salespeople, they will figure out a comp plan.
Oh, they're tenacious.
Whatever you give them, they'll bitch and moan, but they will figure it out, and they will figure out how to leverage it and optimize
the plan. Yeah, exactly. And so like we were growing so fast that we were just like, I didn't have time to deal with this. So we went out and looked for software, and it sucked. It was a miserable process. Didn't fit the software we brought on, didn't fit the like what we needed to do. It was 8 months of onboarding, and we eventually just got rid of it. So fast forward 3 years, we sold Trend Kite in 2018 for $225 million to PR Newswire, Cision. And I was on to my next thing, didn't take a break. And my next thing is Quota Path, where 70 folks.
Oh, wait a minute, man. I thought you were a successful entrepreneur. I mean, you're supposed to like be on a laptop at a pool once you have an exit. So, you're doing something wrong. What's going on? What's wrong with you?
I had 3 daughters along the way. My wife owns a business as well. You were asking the right questions, Wes. What is wrong with me? And I don't have a good answer for that.
I only have one problem, but it's like very hard to pronounce. Like it's really long. I don't know. The doctors are looking into it. Anyway.
So here I am on my second gig. It's been a lot of fun. We have about 500 customers. We work with fast-growing, scaling teams. HubSpot Ventures is an investor in us, so like we kind of fit their model of like how they work with the agencies. And I know you have some familiarity with them, but it's been a fun 4 years. 70 people, pretty fast-growing. Half located in Austin, another spackling in Philadelphia, and then remote culture, of course, with the engineering and other folks too.
Very cool. So what did you do differently in the founding of your second company?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest lessons learned on my first company was building for the end user and retention. And so we built a B2B SaaS company at Trend Kite that was very easy to sell because the UI looked great, but it didn't fulfill the promise, the outcomes that we were trying to base that off of. So when I was thinking about the business model of Quota Path, we knew we were going to do in sales compensation, really wanted to make sure that end users understood what they were looking at and that they understood their comp plans, because you're right, they can figure out a comp plan, they just can't calculate it. And that's the bigger issue, is it's incorrect. And so this spreadsheet not matching this spreadsheet, well, they got to match. So how do you do that? Well, you bring them into the same world. You take the operations, the finance folks, and you mix those with the actual individual contributors in looking at the same book, and that makes it a lot easier. So end user delight was something that I thought about, and really creating a world where lots of people could use it. And then I also just thought about the brand and making sure we were building a team. Culturally, Trend Kite was great, but I wanted to continue to make sure that we're always thinking about the right people and making sure the mission and the vision, and that we're continuing to innovate, and that people were able to learn and grow at Quota Path. Those were really important tenets for me as a CEO.
Let's talk about brand, because I've always said, especially working with smaller companies, I tell them, don't worry about your brand. Go sell something.
Go figure it out.
Make the sale, over deliver, right? Under promise, over deliver, grow, and charge enough that you can deliver a great experience, and in time you'll build a brand.
Yeah.
Right. So, but some people, oh no, I'm going to spend all this time on my logo and my color palette, and what is the meaning of this, and how does it fit with Mercury and retrograde? And I'm like, dude, you're majoring in the minors because you're afraid to go sell something. Is that good advice?
I think your advice is sound when you think about the just advice. But I think that there's something that if you want to think big, you gotta execute big, and brand definitely plays a bigger part in that as well. So yes, if you're smaller companies, 100%, you make sure your MVP, your minimum viable product, there's product market fit, make sure people actually crave, you create raving fans, all of those things. However, that look and feel of the company and what it makes you feel is really important. In today's world, that's even more important because you have to differentiate.
But is that culture versus brand? And I know they overlap, right?
Yeah.
But and I'm talking about the truly small companies, 5, 10, 15 employees. I think back, you read the Steve Jobs bio, and he talked about how his dad, even the back of the machines were soldered, prettily. They look nice. It's all in the back. It's all enclosed. Who cares? He's like, I care.
Yeah.
Maybe he had these big visions, but he's like, I got Wozniak. This dude's a machine. Let's go sell some stuff.
So what you're actually pointing out is really, really interesting, because it's less about for Steve Jobs. I'm not going to pretend I understand Steve Jobs thinking, but you actually hit on this. In his mind, he has this reality distortion field they talk about all the time. In his mind, that's the most important thing. And that's the thing he's going to hone in down. And there's the other story where he wasn't with Apple. He was with his company Next that Apple eventually bought. And he was doing a talk, and someone brought a newer Apple keyboard for him to sign. And it had a top row of letters that didn't fit the brand design that he had envisioned. And he ripped the letters off, and then he signed at the very top, and he handed it back. He said, there you go. And so to someone like Steve Jobs, it was just more about the thing and not necessarily what everyone else, you look at that, you're like, that sounds ridiculous. Okay. But now you think of Apple and you're like, well, I got this nice piece of paper that I can pull off. Now I can pull it off the iPhone, this little plastic thing. It's about the experience and the consumer experience. So brand, what you're actually talking to, is actually a part of that selling motion. You don't have to go create these ridiculous logos and pay an agency hundreds of thousands of dollars for your pastel blue color that you're going to make. And this represents this, and this is what it feels. It has to be in the mind of you as the founder, the entrepreneur, that you're going to go out and set out to do it. So that when you do talk about your logo, you're like, Oh yeah, of course we designed it this way. It's like a target for quotas, and then the quota path, and then it's also like kind of this spinning compass symbol here. It's like, look at that. That makes sense, right? Well, do you think we went out and did design it like that with those three things in mind? No. And oh, by the way, I'm a commercially rated pilot, so it looks like a propeller. And I, have a podcast where I go out and interview sales leaders on the cockpit of my airplane called Value Props, and it just happens to look like a propeller. We didn't think about that, but like that's where it's also ultimately the evolution and the journey has gotten to at this point in time.
Yeah, I think we agree. It's just, I love the fact you're talking about you were making cold calls, right? Outbound calls, and people are still. I had a dialogue on a friend's wall last week, and he was talking about making outbound calls, and a friend of his, a very successful lady, says, she's never done any outbound. It's all been like paid traffic and bringing it in, and it's like, there's a time and a place for everything. And I've worked primarily with smaller businesses and who've been ripped off by PPC people, SEO people, graphic design people, and they're majoring in the minors because they're afraid to pick up the phone and have a conversation. And it's like, I get it. It's not fun. It's not exciting. Maybe it's not even scalable to be banging out calls all the time, but I can work with you on Monday and have you making sales by Friday for sure on the phone affordably versus, oh, let's do a persona build in the buyer's journey and map this out. And we're going to split tests. We're going to make 30 different ads because of ad fatigue. Then we're going to look at promoted posts versus this versus that, on and on and on. And yes, down the road, that's fantastic. Run the ads, make the phone ring, the deals come in. But I think you become a better ad buyer if you're a good salesperson.
Yeah, look, I mean, I cut my teeth cold call sales, was making 60 calls, worked for 1,000-person company, 800 were in banging the phones. I totally get it. Trend Kite was built. We didn't have a CMO or marketing leader until we were already at like 15, 20 million in ARR. I 100% understand and get it. And I like the cold calling is cold calling dead. Like that's not even the right argument or the right question to have. I do think it's like, how do you have the conversation? What you're really saying is like, you can have the conversation and connect one-on-one with your buyer. You can do that. You have to have a little bit of elbow grease and ingenuity to figure out how they're thinking about their problems. It's definitely a little bit of a challenger sale mentality, but you can have that. You don't have to like go artificially create the brand or the demand through brand exercises. 100% agree.
Amen. Now we can move on.
Amen. How's that cup of coffee tasting?
I'm getting in a better mood. So
I started with calculus at the beginning of this call with comp plan design, and now we're loosening up. That's what we got to.
We're doing differential equations, man. It's getting crazy.
Well, do you know what a differential? I don't know what a differential equation is. Do you?
Unfortunately, oh, well, you can't see. All right. Next to that picture is my Texas A&M degree in meteorology. And dude, if I knew how hard it was going to be, yes, I had to have like through calculus 3 and differential equations. And I think I got out of linear algebra, praise the Lord. But it was thermodynamics and fluid dynamics. And I'm like, what? This hurts my head. Oh my God.
It's funny you say this. I was an astronomy major for my first like 2 years at Penn State. And then I had to take real math courses for it. And I dropped out of it really quickly. You still went the route.
So that was after the Air Force Academy. So I can't work backwards, right? So they recruited me to play football, and I had good grades in high school, but like I didn't know what I wanted to do. I just knew I didn't have money, and I didn't want to go in debt for college. I'm like, all right, I get to play football and get a free degree, okay? But yeah, the free is they take a pound of flesh out of your ass every week for 4 years.
Yeah.
So
you should have been in the NIL days today. It's a totally different world. Oh, I don't want to get you started down that path.
So it doesn't matter what your major is. You're taking calculus, physics, every engineering, aeronautical, astronautical, civil. I mean, everything, mechanical engineering, you're taking it all. So just to be an English major, I was a geography major. So I was like, I don't want to do anything. What? And then like at the end of my sophomore year, they're like holding a gun to my head, declare a major. You must pick something. And I'm like, what's the easiest major here? Oh, geography. All right, I'm going to do geography. Great. Here's your mechanical engineering class. What?
Where's the map? Where?
Oh my God. Yeah. But anyway, I digress. How do you get me off on these tangents, man?
Oh, I think I knew it. We were just, this is the conversation. This is where we're headed.
So what's working today, man? And what do you see coming down the pipe, right? Obviously, we're in this post-COVID world, but the governments are going to keep playing bullshit games with that. We've got some work from home, work remote. We've got inflation. Now I'm reading about the Fed. Instead of quantitative easing, they're going to do quantitative tightening. People are like, what the hell is that? We got Bitcoin. Is it going to 1 million? Is it going to zero? Gas, I don't know. By the time we release this, will be $10 a gallon, at least here in California. How do we grow in this environment? Should we even be in sales? Should we just go build a bunker and, prepare for the worst?
Oh man, I love this world. It's so much fun. Look, there's a lot of noise, and I think like my job is just to provide a secure environment for Quota Path. And in 2013 to 2018 for Trend Kite, that was actually a pretty easy world. We were living in Austin. We're all in the office. We're having a good time. We're friends. We're going out with each other. People knew each other super, super well. Some of my best friends still from that experience. Quota Path's been a journey, just like all startups in the last 3 or 4 years have been a journey. And now my role is really to provide security and make sure people feel good about like what they're, not just what they're working on, but how they're supported to work on it. And I couldn't answer any of the questions I was an econ major. So I dropped out of the astronomy and it was like, oh, linear regression. That sounds great. Which is also the calculus piece of it. I was an econ major. Yeah, exactly. And so like supply demand I get, but I couldn't tell you what's going to happen in the next 6 to 8 months.
All right. So another digression, right? So I'm taking econ at the academy.
Yeah.
And like I said, I was a good student. I just nothing lit my fire, right? So I was bumping along. And I get into econ. I think I was a sophomore. And I'm applying my normal effort. And man, I get like a C on a test. And I was like, damn. I'm like, okay, I didn't expect an A+, but I didn't expect a C. So a friend of mine, he helps me and I like double down, man. Damn near I pulled 2 all-nighters in all 4 years. I got my stuff done. I like my sleep still to this day. And doubled down, busted my ass, and I got a D. And I'm like, kiss my ass. I can get a D without even studying. I can guess my way through a D, and I did the rest of the year. I think I somehow pulled out a C in the class, but it was hard. I didn't get it. Do they make things hard in econ just like they make things hard in commission plans on purpose?
The funny thing about econ is like after going through the astronomy stuff, I really enjoyed like the specific focus of econ. So you do macro and micro, but then you would do like econometrics and really start to understand like the nuance of it. I actually because at the theoretical level, like that was just way past my brain. Like, look, Wes, we're at the end of the day, we're sales guys, and like, we're not the marketing demand gen tinkering with dials. We know how to pick up the phone and call and talk to people. So like theoretical, like big stuff just went way past me. But on the micro level, I really enjoyed like actually learning about microeconomics, which was like this idea that you have 5 women in Bangladesh that are you're putting out loans, you're giving loans. Kiva is a company that actually micro lending. You do that. I love learning about that stuff. So what I learned about econ was I really enjoyed people, like learning about people and as individuals, not as like a giant system. So all of this stuff that you mentioned that's going on, they're all very real and very serious. But like, there's no way I can grasp my brain around those things. And so at the end of the day, I know tech, yeah, there's a lot of turmoil supposedly going to happen in tech. I haven't seen it yet, but there's a lot of noise of people talking about the recession and another .com bust. I get it. I understand, because I've lived in 3 years. I've seen what overcapitalization of markets is doing. But from a sales standpoint, no, this is like, could not be a better field of study, especially if you want to learn how to found companies or entrepreneurship. That's how I got into it. I asked my uncle, who was like really great in business and real estate, and I said, hey, I want to own a company one day. I'm graduating. I could go to a consulting company. He's like, no. Get into sales. Like, really? Like, yeah, you'll learn the real revenue drivers, the bottom line.
I need him on the podcast. All right. That's where we're going with this.
Yeah, but that was the best life advice I've ever got.
Yep.
And so I was like, okay, I guess I'll make these awful cold calls for all day, and I hate my life, and it's going to be miserable, and I'll prospect and I'll work 80 hours a week because that's what you did at that time. And I learned.
Let me ask you though, because like my son, he's getting into real estate. He's 24. He's always been entrepreneurial. He paid his way through high school and college. He would buy cars and flip them. He'd buy Jeeps, trucks, like lifted trucks, lights, big bumpers. He would piece out the parts. Right? He would drive this thing for 3 months. He'd make $3,000 piecing it out. He'd put like a stock bumper, stock tires, sell the big lifted tires. He'd make $3,000 on the pieces and parts, and then make $3,000 selling the vehicle after you drove it for 3 months. So like he doesn't even know how good of a salesperson he is. And he's getting into real estate, and it's tough in this market being new. And I'm bringing him some opportunities to work with some of my clients. He said, I don't know if I want to make calls. And even in his current thing, I'm like, look, dude, you got to have fun with it. You got to have a proven script. You got to understand how predictable people are and make some games with this. You can have a lot of fun, even now in his real estate. I'm like, you got to stand out, dude. Like, send a picture of our dog, right? Say, hey, Maisie and I really appreciate you stopping by the open house. Like, stand apart, have fun with it. But is that bad advice? Is it realistic?
No, that's fantastic advice. That's the best advice you could possibly give someone. And that's like, if you can stay in that, just that daily cadence and that focus of like, here's what I'm going to go out and achieve. Here's how I'm going to have fun with it. You can build a model. What does that turn into? It potentially turns into you managing a team or managing a business that creates that same model with the same script. And so like for Trend Kite, when I was the founder and president of the company, I had board level exposure. So I understood the science of the sales. I had to understand the roll up of everyone and what that looked like at a metrics and operations. But then I got to do the art of the sale. I got to I had all the one-on-ones every single week with the team and have the kind of the therapy sessions because of the mental head trash from a rep month to month, quarter to quarter you go through. You kind of have to, from those confidence swings, you kind of have to figure that out. And I loved that. That's the best advice you could possibly give someone. 100% agree. Doesn't matter what field you're going into. Be slinging tires or wheels on the side of streets and as a side hustle in Miami. Doesn't matter.
Yeah. Did you, or do you now, or have you ever like given your team scripts and say like, hey, stick with this? Or because like when I was in sales, as an employee, I would always fight the consultants they'd bring in, who would give us.
You were a bit of a lone wolf, as it were.
Very much, but I was studious, right? I was always learning, and the reason I fought back is because they gave us crap. They gave us bad scripts. They put us into unrealistic scenarios, like what's the Star Trek, the Kobayashi whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You remember?
I was a Star Wars guy, so sorry, wrong. I'm on the other side of the coin there.
Oh man, even the new one. What's his name?
I've seen the very first new one, unfortunately.
So they Chris Pike or something. I don't know, but I like the guy. I like the movie, but they created this computer model. It was an attack and it was unwinnable. Right? They would just overwhelm the cadets. To see how they reacted. Well, so the young Captain Kirk, he's like, hell with this. Like he knew somebody or whatever. He hacked the system, put a glitch in it so he could win. So they're like, well, we're going to kick you out because you broke the honor code or whatever. And he's like, you can't kick me out because I rose to the higher level of, do what it takes to win. So, they go back and forth on that.
Here's like I came from like what would be the sales university, sales culture. Meltwater was very known. And what I realized, when I started my career, I had 3 fantastic managers in the span of like 7 months. They all taught me sales managers. The first I joined, she was the top seller in the company. There's 800 people, and she was selling to Thermo Fisher, like companies I'd never heard of. I was like, who the hell's Thermo Fisher? Is that like toys for kids? Oh, that's Fisher Price. But like, no, real companies, a little bit different. And she was selling at a level that I couldn't even understand. And then I had a different sales manager who would like sell to venture funded companies and companies that had IPOs. And I was like, what the hell is an IPO? I don't know what that is. And like, she was selling into those markets. And I like through those two just couldn't I was trying to mimic them. So because of my hard work, I crushed my first quarter. And then I had 3 months where I didn't sell a dime, $0, flat on my face. And what I realized was that there's this level of selling, A to Z selling, that I was trying to match, but was just a total mess because I wasn't confident in what I was saying. And I had a third manager, all women, by the way. Like, I've learned the best from sales methodologies from the women managers that I've had over the years. And she treated me like a kindergartner. You're like, AJ, you were going to repeat everything I say on the phone.
So was that a good thing or a bad thing?
Oh, it was a great thing for me.
Yeah.
I needed it. That's what I needed at the time, is that someone just to tell me, like, just, if you're a top seller, no, it's awful. But she like micromanaged me in a way that I needed. And eventually became the top seller that year at the end of the year. And then like I went off on my own. And I realized like, oh, you have to create the sales methodology, not necessarily a script. You have to create the perfect way to sell that thing. And then you got to teach it from top to bottom. And that became kind of my North Star for building the Trend Kite team and produce, today, dozens upon dozens of VP of sales and founders and entrepreneurs, because we created this like pattern match. Now, we had some phenomenal sellers that were lone wolf, that were like doing their own thing that no one was going to be able to match. That happens. But that person, they're going to make a shit ton of money, but they're not going to be like the person that you're going to have as the top sales leader in a mentor and coach, because they're kind of doing their own thing.
You're wrong. You're wrong right there, man.
I'm wrong.
You're wrong.
Tell me.
Here's what happens. Most companies promote that jackass to sales manager, and then he destroys the company because that lone wolf attitude, and they just have innate talent, right? That is non-transferable. But they sold a bunch. Now they make them sales managers, and then they're like, "Hey Jay, what the hell's wrong with you? I was 300% over quota in that territory. You're just screwing up my territory. I don't even know why they hired you." And then they destroy the company. But you're right. They should not promote that person.
But that's where things can get sideways pretty quick. There's a million traps of grenades of why sales teams fell and that fall, and that's one of them. But yeah.
Yeah, because one of the first things I do when I work with companies is help them with their scripts. I'm like, walk me through a day in the life of. Even if somebody calls in, that's fine. You got to have a script, because I'm like, how are they finding you? What are their questions? Where are they in this buyer's journey? Are they brand new, looking for information? Are they at the very end, kind of making that final decision? And start walking them through it. And I help them understand, like, we got to put ourselves in their shoes.
Yep.
And I'm always telling them, we have to adjust how we buy to match how the prospect, or we have to adjust how we sell to match how the prospect buys. But usually, it's my way or the highway. And we'll naturally connect with 20 to 30% of the population, but the rest we're just throwing to the wolves. When I find when you give them a good script, and then people start to realize, the thing I always do is like, say, okay, hey, AJ, how are you? And you go,
I'm good. Great. I'm doing well.
That's good. Do you have a good Memorial Day weekend?
Yeah, it was okay. I had a cookout, went with the family, some good downtime. Weather was nice.
Oh, really nice. So, we do this tit for tat. I'm like, isn't that a script? And they go, oh yeah.
It's just a bad script.
You're going to say something. Something's going to come out of your mouth.
Yeah, hi, how are you? I'm good. How are you? I'm good. Thanks for asking, David. So it's like there's a script. You're just winging it, and you're just hoping you can land the killer punch, make the killer offer at the right time. It's like, well, good luck with that. And then they start to realize, okay. Because if I can get them to buy off on that and realize that's life, then it gets easy, and we'll refine it, and they start to have fun, and then you start making sales, and life gets real fun.
Exactly.
But usually they're forcing it down their throats. But you mentioned earlier, got some notes here, like your job, you were talking about something like your job is to provide a path, provide security for your staff.
Well, I think you provide the framework for how to be successful in the role that you have. Sales is the easiest black and white of that. Like that is like for sales teams today and sales teams I advise, it's like you have to have that like here's exactly what you need to do to be successful. Here's the conversion numbers, here's all those numbers. Other roles it's a little bit tougher to do because you're building the airplane as you fly it. So like, startups are different, and so like we have different roles and different people that I haven't had, and like you're bringing in experts, your management team is up leveling and getting better. So yeah, I mean, like even in a startup where there's so much uncertainty, my job is to de-risk the business as much as I possibly can. How do I do that? I bring in people that I've worked with. So half the company I've worked with previously. I ensure that everyone has that framework, or we can at least see how we're going to get there. And then I provide the big picture vision of, regardless of what's happening in the world, we have another pandemic, whatever. This is our mental model of how we see the future and the vision. And I talk about it and communicate. That's the most important thing. I communicate. Communication, number one killer of companies and startups, but it also can be your asset if you do it well.
Mm-hmm. What is the attitude and mentality of workers today? I'm seeing a lot of job hopping, hey, I want to work somewhere I'm fulfilled. I don't really owe the company anything. Maybe they're there 3 months, maybe they're there 3 years, but the
side hustle.
But the goal is to get gone, get what you can, leave so you can get a promotion, make more money.
No, I think the vocal minority has pushed that. I think there's a lot of thought leaders and sales thought leaders that have pushed a little bit of that. I actually don't, it's certainly not my own company, but I just kind of disagree in general with that thought process. There's some level of generational piece of it. I'm very much in the millennial bucket, and we're not lazy. We just delay adulthood. It's okay. We have delayed adulthood, and we're fine with that. You're gonna get married later, have kids later, buy a house never. It's all good, and that's okay. And today's generation, well, you hear like, well, kids today don't even look at me in the face today. Well, look how we're communicating, Wes. This is what they're used to. If I want to talk to my kids, how do I communicate? I FaceTime them on the phone. So of course they're like used to just staring at screens, and then I'm supposed to get ticked off when like they're not listening to me, or they're like off in la la land. But that's what all they've known. So hybrid, remote, whatever, like you're gonna do. I mean, we're headed down this path that is like, this is just what people are going to know. This is how business gets done, and we've got to figure out a way to work in that world. We're not changing behaviors of people. I'll tell you that. Not changing them. It's not how it works.
Yeah,
I work in those confines.
Well, I've worked from home since 22 years. Actually, it was June of 2000. I got recruited by a tech company, and I work from home, and I always have. And I remember my oldest son, he's 25, super smart, techie, computer science and business major. He's in Silicon Valley in the crypto space. But man, this was a good 10 years ago, at least. He was in high school, and I would call, right? And he wouldn't answer his freaking phone, and I'd text him. And that same day, like we were at home, and I'm like, why do you have a phone if you don't answer it when I call you? And he said, for the apps. And it was like this aha moment. I'm like, oh crap, that's where we're headed. Like that's where we are, right? And we're headed there even more.
There today.
Yeah, I mean, that was a decade ago, but I was like, oh crap, this is how things get done. And my second son, I was talking about in real estate. We just yesterday talking. He's doing open houses. He's getting leads, and he's like, "What do I say to these people?" Blah blah blah. And I was telling him, first of all, you have to greet them differently when they come in the door. So he's not doing that. So now it's harder to follow up. And I'm like, stop calling them. I don't want a phone call from an agent right now or any. And people they hit me up on LinkedIn. Hey, get to know each other call. I'm like, can you text me give me an outline. If I think we need to talk, I'll call you. But I'm telling him, send him some memes, have some fun, text these people. They don't want to pick up the phone. And this is a B2C relationship. Even business people don't want to take too many calls. But if you add value, they'll talk to you because that's their job, is to bring value to their own company. But B2C, it's like, man, text them, email them, throw a picture of your dog in there, have some fun, throw some memes. That's how we're communicating today.
That's how we do it. It's the world we live in. I love my emojis. I'm still learning all the Gen Z emojis every day. Try to figure out how my sales team communicates with each other.
Do y'all do big virtual, like regular meetings, or is it more ad hoc?
No, we have weekly, as a company, we have weekly stand-ups. We have at the end of the week, we do something called WOW and shoutouts, wins of the week and shoutouts, where people can raise their hand and cross-functionally say how someone else in a different department or someone they know or a win they had. And then in July, we'll have our kickoff that will be in person in Austin. So
you bring everybody together?
And bring everyone together.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very cool, man.
Been fun, my friend.
Coming up on the hour. I don't want to overstay my welcome. I got some more Whistle Pig to drink, and you gotta go plot your next flight path. And
my next have actually we have I have a lunch with someone in Philly that's moving to Austin. So one of our team members, navigators as we call them in Philly, is moving to Austin. So it's her going away lunch that I gotta go to.
Very nice. So it's quotapath.com, right?
Yep, that's right.
And so I'm linking to that. And then there's a link as well to your podcast, Value Props. So if you ever fly across country, let me know. I'm in Southern California now. So there's an airport like right here, dude. Look it up. French Valley Airport.
French Valley?
Come see me.
French Valley. French Valley Airport. Yeah, I've flown around in San Diego, so I have done some
like an hour north of San Diego.
Hour north. Never been to. Now I'm looking at the airport. I've never been to.
And they have great burgers. We go there just for the burgers and the big wedge fries, man. So
love it.
And Wes, we have 50 wineries. So come on.
I'll be over there. Just let me hop in my cockpit. I'll be right on there.
Let's do it. All right. Well, have a good lunch. Thanks for coming on the show, man. Have a great day.
Yeah. Thanks, Wes. Thanks for having me.
All right. It's Father's Day as I make this outro, and tomorrow is my wife's birthday. We are heading to the beach for a week, but I've got to come back and help with a charity golf tournament because, it's what I do. But I hope you got a lot out of this interview. If you are a sales manager, simplify things. If you can't simplify your commission structure, then get AJ's software, all right? It will help. If you are an entrepreneur, if you're a salesperson, thinking about doing something on your own or just wanting to be a better salesperson, which means being more entrepreneurial, I hope you got something out of this. He tells his story. He has launched a couple of companies. Pay attention how he grew, how he sold. We get into how he launched the business, always focusing on end user delight. As salespeople, talk about the ABCDE sales cycle, right? Attract, bond, convert, deliver, endear. It's a cycle. It's a circle. Each step affects the other. It's different than a pipeline. A pipeline is one direction. A funnel is one direction. But the reality is those models are okay within the cyclical framework of A, B, C, D, E. But on that process, A, B, C, D, attract, bond, convert, the conversion, what I call a conversion, I also call the close or the cash, the client, the customer. All right. It's only the halfway point. Amateur salespeople think the sale is the goal. It's only the halfway point. It's like getting married. My son just got married 2 weeks ago. Is the relationship over? Or is now when it really, truly begins? When that customer gives you money, it's not over. You now have to delight. You have to deliver a wow experience. That's what AJ's talking about. From the product creation standpoint, he's talking about delighting. You, as a salesperson, though, have to ensure that the customer is delighted through the sales process. So do what you can to ensure that happens. It will pay off. Okay. We talked about cold calling, and I'm seeing this more and more. Outbound is working. It's working better than ever. So get good at it. I cover that in the Make Every Sale course. I cover that on our Monday calls in the Sell More of Everything group. I cover that in private consulting. How to make outbound calls, how to handle inbound calls. They're very similar. Obviously the beginning is different, but you're still talking to a human. They have the same fears, worries, concerns, doubts. How do you address that quickly? I get into all that and more in these programs. So we got, a recession hitting. Things are going crazy. Invest in yourself. That is the best thing you can do for long-term growth. Invest in yourself. If it's not me, find someone else that resonates with you and double down. All right? Thanks for listening. I'll go sell something.